Is it just me, or am I more pasty white than normal? I don't know. Time to get a suntan, Dan. Hello, my friend. Daniel Midson-Short here, and in today's video, I want to talk about childhood dreams. Those fantasies and illusions and delusions that we sometimes have as young children, where we believe we're going to be an astronaut or an Olympian or the president, or we're going to be a multimillionaire or world famous. All of us, to some extent, have these fantasies and these dreams that we think once we get a little bit older, we're going to spend our lives achieving. Now, for most of us, the reality is that as we get to being teenagers and young adults, we basically give up on those childhood dreams because, to be honest, they are just fantasies. They are kind of delusional. They're not realistic in comparison to the life that we live day to day, especially as we become adults. For me, my number one dream when I was a kid who was about 10 years old was to become a cartoonist for Disney. I was very good at drawing when I was a kid, and I used to get a lot of accolades from other kids in my class, and for that reason I developed this dream or this fantasy that someday I would work for Disney and I would illustrate and I would be a cartoonist and I'd create new movies and shows. And I kind of carried that dream for about 3 or 4 years along, and it helped me to have a lot of enthusiasm, it helped me to improve my skills, and it gave me a bit of an identity. And I think that's really the reason I had that dream. Not so much about actually achieving it, but it gave me something to focus on, something to look forward to, and something to work towards. And that's the reason I'm making this video today. You might have something in your life where you feel like you're starting to give up on the childhood or the teenage dream that you had, and you're wondering, is it actually worth still continuing to do? Is it worth making the effort? Is it worth sticking to? Is it actually worth it to try and achieve something that was so important to you in the past that may not be as relevant today? One of the strangest things I've noticed about growing up is that when you're a kid, typically you are encouraged to dream big. You're told that you can be whatever you want to be in your life. If you have some crazy fantasy idea of something you want to do, like being rich or being famous or succeeding in some big way, most people around you will kind of humor you and say, yeah, go for it. You're going to do that one day. But when you turn into a teenager, and especially as you get towards young adulthood, you find the tone changes very much. What was an amazing idea when you were 10 years old is not an amazing idea in the eyes of most adults when you're getting towards 18, 19, 20. No one is encouraging you to be an astronaut or an Olympian anymore unless you've already made serious inroads towards it. And this is a strange phenomenon that happens. We get all these people around us telling us to be realistic or to give up or to get a real job or whatever it is. And I've talked about this in other videos about the sort of phenomenon of settling down. Everyone wants you to calm down and be a bit more like them. The same thing happens with our dreams. We're told to kind of give up on them as we get into young adulthood. I think a lot of the time this happens because people want to kind of protect us from disappointment. They see us not really getting close to the dream, not having the potential or the ability to achieve it, and they want to kind of protect us from that disappointment or being let down by telling us that we should give up early, that we shouldn't keep pursuing it. And in some cases, I actually think that they're right. There are certain fantasies that you probably never will achieve, whereas there are other things, if you commit to them and you keep working on them, you can achieve in your life. So in this video today, I want to talk more about why we might want to give up on our childhood dreams and what changes as we grow and we evolve and we develop into adults. Now, the first thing that I have noticed is that as you grow into an adult, you're not the same person you used to be. You don't have the same values, the same ideals, you're not spending time with the same people. I'm certainly not, as a 40-year-old man, the same 10-year-old kid who dreamed about becoming a cartoonist for Disney. It's not part of my life anymore. I'm not even interested in Disney movies. I don't have any connection to it anymore. And you're the same. If you're in your 20s or your 30s now, you have a different identity, a different persona, a different way of perceiving yourself than you did as a young kid or as a teenager or even as a young adult. I found for myself what I wanted at the age of 20 was very different to what I wanted at the age of 30, and now at the age of 40, looking towards my mid-40s, I even have different values and ideals, and I'm not the same person that I used to be. And you know what? That's okay. You're not supposed to be the same person your whole life. This idea that you are the same person through your whole life is actually not realistic. You become a completely different person depending on your life experiences, depending on who you hang around, depending on the media that you consume, and the things that you do with your life. So it's okay to see yourself as completely different than you did 10, 15, 20 years ago when you were a little kid. And therefore, sometimes the dreams that you had die with that identity. The second thing I've learned is that your needs become more complex. So when you first start out as a kid or a teenager or a young adult, you don't have to really take care of a lot of things in your life. For the majority of us, our home is taken care of, our clothing, our food, our shelter, etc. But what we find as we grow into young adults is that we suddenly have all these responsibilities and this reality that takes over. We have to now provide for ourselves, we have to pay taxes, we have to go to work on time, and those responsibilities and those needs completely shift from when you're a little kid. When you're a little kid and a teenager and a young adult, basically your whole life is about focusing on your own needs. It's about doing what you want to do, feeling good about yourself, and everything else in the world kind of takes a back seat. As you grow into an adult, especially in your 20s and 30s, you find that the needs that you have start to shift, especially if you have a partner or you have a family or you have a high responsibility job. You will find that your needs change because you suddenly have all these other realities that you have to manage, that you have to kind of work through in your life. And that starts to press against your childhood dreams. The things that you really wanted to do when you were a kid suddenly are overtaken by the needs that you have in the present day. And the third thing I've noticed is that holding on to the past can become limiting. Now, there's a great example of this in the movie Napoleon Dynamite. If you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out, where Napoleon Dynamite's uncle, Rico, is obsessed with going back to 1983 and playing in his high school football match. He lives his life in the past, even though it long ago has expired and he needs to move on. We can look at that movie in a way that's ridiculous, but I think a lot of us as human beings, myself included, fall into this trap. We hold on to past ideals, past identities, past versions of our lives, and we look at them and we idealize them and we say, man, when I was a kid, I wanted to do this. I had this dream, but I never achieved it. If only I could achieve it now, I'd be so happy. The truth is, like I said, you're a different person and your needs change, and therefore the old values, the old dreams, the old ideals that you had, they expire. They are no longer relevant and they are no longer valuable like they used to be. By holding on to them, you actually end up limiting yourself and not giving yourself room to grow and develop. You know, to become a new person, you need to let go of the old version of who you were. And in a lot of respects, you have to let go of the dreams that you had, the ideals and the fantasies that you had, so that you can make room for new goals, new challenges, new levels of development in your life. This is something that I've had to learn rather painfully, that I have to give up certain things to actually get new things, to grow in new ways. And I'm sure you've experienced that for yourself as well. So what I would say is look at what you might be holding on to, those childhood dreams or fantasies, and ask yourself, have they actually reached an expiry date? Have they passed me by and it's now time to look towards the future, to something new, something that actually resonates with me now and matches the values that I have? I bet when you look internally, you will know the answer and you'll know if it's time to let go of what was really important to you in the past. The final thought I have for you here is that most of us don't achieve our childhood dreams. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like it's a bummer and we're just never going to amount to anything, but the reality is who we thought we were at age 10 or 15 or 20 isn't who we are today. Even if you're in your mid-20s today or your early 30s or your mid-30s, you are a completely different person, you have different needs, and the old you has expired. You need to let that go and realize that it's okay not to achieve childhood dreams. You don't have to hold on to them, even though the mystique is out there in the world that it's important to become the person you always dreamed about. The reality is that most of us don't actually achieve the things we fantasized about and we hope to achieve as kids. They were very useful to us at a certain age. Like I said at the start of this video, they give you a sense of focus, a sense of hope, and something to work towards. But they have an expiry date, and you are perfectly within your right to let go of the past, to give yourself permission to give up on a childhood dream so that you can achieve something based on the person you are today. My friend, I'm a big proponent of actualizing and developing yourself and striving and challenging. So I'm not saying just give up completely. But what I am saying is if there's something in your past, something that you used to dream about doing that isn't important to you anymore, maybe it's time to put it to rest. Accept that it was helpful for you at a certain age, but now it's time to move on and focus on new goals, new priorities, and new responsibilities that will help you become the next version of yourself. Hopefully these ideas were valuable for you. If you liked the video, please leave a like and a comment below, sharing what dreams you've given up on and what you've focused on instead in your life. And if you like what we're doing here in this channel, please consider subscribing and becoming part of our community. We'd love to have you with us. My name is Daniel Midson-Short. Thanks as always for watching, and thank you for improving yourself.